what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Brothers in Tech is a weekly podcast focused on personal and home technology, helping provide you, our fellow brothers and sisters in tech, with some information, assistance, and recommendations. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Brothers in Tech here on the Mesh.tv. This is our weekly podcast where Brian and I get together and talk technology. As the title, Brothers in Tech, probably
perfectly named title,
probably cues you up for. Brian, how you doing?
Good, Alan. How are you?
I'm good. My brother on the other coast of the country. This is our one time a week we actually get together and talk. And we just spend it talking about technology. We don't ask about each other's families or spouses.
Nope.
We don't talk sports. We don't talk weather. We don't talk anything else except just technology. And then when we're done with the show,
we definitely don't talk sports. That's a no for us. Yeah.
No. I already. Yeah. Anyway, long story. I'm not going to go there. Yeah. And once the recording's done, I hit the end button and it's like, see ya. We're out. See you next week. And that's kind of our deal. That's the way it works. And we're happy with it, right?
And you all get to enjoy that process with us. Yeah. So here we go.
We open it to the world.
Yeah.
Today on Brothers in Tech, we are going to be talking about artificial intelligence. No, we're not. That's not talking about Brian. We're going to be talking about computer-based intelligence. We're going to be talking about, and AI has been around for a long time, but why are we making an episode about it now? Well, it's been a little more in the news lately. We're going to explain kind of why, some new services, some new sites and software that's being available to the public that we're going to have some fun with. We're going to show you what you can do with these things, but also we'll kind of end with a little conversation about, is this good for society, or is this something we need to be worried about before we get too deep into it? So we got a nice conversation about AI, artificial intelligence, coming up in just a little bit. But Brian, before we do, just check it in, since this is our 1 hour to talk each week. Everything good? Anything fun, interesting going on with you tech-wise right now?
No, everything's good. It is kind of it's been a fun week with technology. I think I talked to you a little bit before. I'm trying to get my desk situation kind of up to par, and so that's been a lot of scouring used things to see if I can get my desk set up the way I want it. So I've got a monitor and a monitor arm, and now I have a microphone and a microphone arm, and so now I'm getting there. I've kind of set it up so that I can do a standing desk, as well as, the desk doesn't change, but I have a little riser for a new keyboard that I have, a wireless keyboard and trackpad. So, I'm kind of excited. I think I told you the only thing I have left to do is probably work out a webcam issue that I'm having, and I'm trying my best not to have to ask you about it, because I don't want you to solve it for me.
I'm here. I am here and available whenever you need me, Brian. Just drop me a note. Let me know. I'll help you out.
No, it's good. I think I'm dealing with the issues of buying a cheap webcam, a off-brand webcam that maybe is causing some issues with my system, but other than that, it's been kind of fun to get a new desk environment. Of course, now that just means I'm almost done with that and actually have to work, and that's
the whole problem. When I got done building a really nice desk setup at my office, you kind of sit down the last day, look at it like, it's perfect. It's exactly what I need to do. Now I actually have to be productive and use it.
Right.
So,
I'm thinking about maybe changing it up again and just starting over. Just keep a cycle of starting over. Take pictures of it and then move along and break it down. So,
people ask you, "Hey Brian, how's that project going?" You say, "Well, I'll work on it, but I'm kind of in the middle of
it's continuous
renovation setup here."
It's like Legos, right? I'll make something and then break it all up and make something different. So that'll just keep me in a constant action. So
good.
How about you? Is there anything I can help you with technology wise?
So there may be. And I'm just going to pose a little question for you. Well, I'm going to put you to the test.
Now I'm excited. Okay.
So you know me, I'm Mr. Fitness. I have always preached fitness.
I'm sorry. I think the audio has a problem. Oh,
This is I'm always always preaching fitness. I mean, Brian, between the two of us, I mean, I've been the one all about exercise and fitness. Yes, I know you got a whatever, a doctorate in exercise science, kinesiology, whatever. But I've been kind of the one in the family that's been really keen on keeping myself fit and healthy.
Yeah, taking care of the temple.
The last 4 days. In all seriousness, I did set up a home gym down in my basement. Very excited and happy with that. Making use of a slat of concrete in an unfinished basement and just trying to find some use for it. So it became a little mini home gym, which has been great. But on the tech question side of it, I have been, really focused on tracking my health activity. I have Apple Watch, I use and do all my tracking of workouts through there.
Yep.
I'm using the health and fitness apps both on my iPhone to just kind of monitor and keep tabs on things. But here's a question, and just I don't need an answer now. We're going to wait till the end of the show because I want to get into our conversation about AI. I think that's going to be fun. But I struggle in the fact that I find myself constantly forgetting to start a workout on my watch or whatever. If I get on the treadmill and I start running or walking, and after a few minutes, I'm just like, oh, you kidding me? I forgot to start the timer on it. So granted, I mean, yeah, I'm still working out, but as far as like, if I really want to see how I'm tracking or what I'm doing every day, things like that are happening. I've got a rowing machine. I'll start rowing. Well, I forgot to start the rowing again. So my question to you, Brian, is what can I do about those situations? Is there any way? Question one is there any way for a smart device to track what it is you're doing without you having to go in and log a workout and telling your watch or phone, I'm walking right now, or I'm rowing, or I'm doing some free weights, or whatever it may be? That's a kind of a big, broad question. I'm curious if there's ways or hacks or anything to do with that to make it more automatic, where I don't have to go in and manually tell it what I'm doing. Second thing is, if I did want to go back and edit or fix or modify any of my workout data, I've tried doing that, and I screwed up some things majorly by doing that, to the point where it had me at one day by accident where I had exercised for 700 minutes straight, which I'll tell you, that did not happen. It was more like 7.
It was no more than 500. It really,
Right.
It was,
So
500.
that's my two-part question. Is there any trick, tool, way that to have workouts automatically start happening based on what machine you're on, based on what you're doing? Or two, if there's not, what is the cleanest, easiest way to go in and manually set those so you've got a good track history of what you really have done and not miss a whole day because you forgot to time stuff?
Nice. Well, I will ponder that.
Okay.
I will allow my artificial intelligence to process that, and we'll talk about it at the end. So
perfect.
I'm very happy to hear that you've got a home gym set up. Of course, I'm wondering if it's going to be like my desk, and you'll now redo your home setup so that you don't have to actually work out.
There was that moment. Like, there was that moment when I finished putting the last piece in, and I'm like, I kind of sit down.
You're
I'm
like,
now I got to exercise.
Crap.
Great. I don't have any excuse anymore.
Yeah. There's always excuses. No worries.
We'll cover that maybe late in the show if we have time, or we'll table it for next week as a follow-up. But let's get into our main conversation, Brian. I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
We are talking artificial intelligence, AI. I mean, I think, I think everybody pretty much knows what the general concept of artificial intelligence is, but it's where you have a computer or a computer controlled device that has software built into it that lets it think intelligently, approximating a human mind. It's where it can actually make decisions. It can make take various input and things that are fed to it and use it to make a choice, make a decision, take an action without having to be prompted. Right now we sit at a keyboard. If I want my computer to do something, I hit a key or click a mouse button and it tells it to do it. Artificial intelligence is saying, you don't need to click a button. You don't need to tell me. I am able to get the information I need through some sources and use it to advance and move forward. Fair enough. Is that
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's so many different levels of this, as you can imagine. I mean, artificial intelligence has been around a long time, but the intelligence level of that artificial intelligence was fairly introductory, right? And so as you said, Alan, most of what we do at a computer is, I want this to happen, so therefore I'm going to do this action, and that's what's happened. Because either I've told it to do that, I've told it that's what I want to do whenever I press this key or when I make this particular movement, or the computer is set up to do that, and I know that, so I'm operating it like a machine, right?
Okay, yeah.
But the difference being, there is really no creativity happening from the machine side. And I think that's important. Hold on, let me turn that heater off. It's going to probably drive me nuts. But there's really no creativity happening. I think creativity is the piece here, the big piece, right? Is that we tell our computer to do something, and of course, let's take maybe 20 years ago of the computer. We tell our computer to do something, and it does what we ask it to do. And if we told it something in mistake, it will do the mistake.
Yeah.
Whereas artificial intelligence is now saying, hey, you know what? I'm starting to learn over time that when you do something, that really what you meant was this, and it's making that correction for us. So we didn't tell it to do that. It's starting to learn some of the mistakes. It's starting to learn that if I take this plus this plus this, I can actually make something new that no one told me to get, but I'm coming up with a new idea. And so I think the idea of creativity, which is what we've always thought in the past, in history, we've always thought that's what made humans somewhat unique, is that we don't just process and spit things out and spit things out. We actually have creativity, right? We try to look for new ideas and new things. And so now we imagine that we've trained our computers to be able to make some of those new ideas. Alan, Shane is listening in and said autocorrect is a great example of basic AI. That's perfect, right?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. I made the wrong input, and it now knows that wrong input really was meant to be something else. So it goes ahead and does the correction for me, not me asking the correction like a typewriter.
Right.
Typewriter, I made the mistake, and it can correct, but only when I tell it to correct. Now it's starting to do it for me. And that is absolutely a great example of kind of the first step in this thing, where it's starting to make decisions and creativity happen based on its knowledge of previous things. And that's what makes us. I mean, I teach a course in motor learning, and what we talk about is how do you learn motor skills. Well, the first thing I say that the first day of class is I'll tell students, you'll hear me say this over and over, you cannot learn without feedback. And so feedback means, if I do something, I need to get information back as to whether that was right or wrong. If I don't get that information back, I never learn, right? So if I throw a ball and I don't know where the ball went, I don't know what it felt like, I don't know anything about it, it goes into a black hole. I don't know to make any changes, so I didn't learn anything. Well, AI is all about its learning constantly now, right? So we've set it up not just to take information and do whatever it's asked to do, like ones and zeros. It's actually learned about these brain connections that we have and is starting to approximate those by saying, hey, listen, you did this, but you know what? I think it's going to be better if we do this and take you in a different direction. So there's some super exciting things about this, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute, some examples, but it is a big deal. It's a big deal for our future. And I know, Alan, our listenership, what we suggest is we are the home technology people, the people that kind of the home and retail and kind of user-friendly sorts of things. Everyone needs to learn about this. You don't necessarily need to code. You don't need to necessarily understand exactly what's happening in the background, but you need to understand what's happening because it is in another 5 years. It's probably another 5 months. It's going to be.
I was going to say years, nothing. This is months. Well, the reason we're bringing this up, and Brian's background on it was great. The reason AI has been around for quite a while. People, we've been developing various forms of AI and enhancing AI for years now. Where it's kind of coming a little bit more, Brian, I think it's always been and built into products we've bought. It's always been kind of growing and developing through different services and platforms we use and so forth. This is what we're going to talk about today. Is I think where it's kind of opening the doors to the general public and saying, hey, let's let you take a role in developing using AI for some purpose. And it's a very well, let's just get into it. Let's talk about some of the examples of things that are kind of and granted, these things are in the news right now. You probably have maybe even heard news articles about these services because there is some controversy with them that we'll definitely talk about a little bit later in the episode. But let's talk about two services in particular. There's a lot of AI driven services online. We're going to pick out two that we know are both very popular. A lot of people are using, but they show the two sides that we want to explore. One is how AI is being used in written language to develop and create written language. And the other one is how it's being used to create original artwork. Okay. Yeah. So Brian, it touches on both what you said about starting to add some artistic creativity to the whole process, right? Which is something AI has not really been known to do before. Now, I think we're going to show that there's some creativity being artificially created, for better or for worse here. So, let's talk about a couple of these services then. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. How about I take one and you take one, right? It'd be the kind of the spearhead of that. Does that work?
Sounds good.
Okay. So the first one that we're going to talk about is one that has, as Alan mentioned, been in the news quite a bit, probably a little bit more than some of the other examples, but it's called ChatGPT. ChatGPT.
So GPT are the letters.
The capitalization.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So ChatGPT. And you may have heard about this recently. There was kind of a couple of articles that came out that really shook some people up and said, wait a minute, this sounds cool, but this is also super scary for some people, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But what ChatGPT is first of all, it's through an open AI, kind of an open source AI engine, right? Which means you can go to this website, you do create an account, and by creating an account, all it is just, username and password. I use a Google account to do that. And what that's allowing you to do is every time you go in, you can have your history of what you've been doing before. So that's kind of nice, right? You can go in.
It is a free service.
It's free. Yeah. There's no pay. There's no subscription as of yet. I do think that's probably the next round of this, is that kind of people starting to charge a little bit more for even these services, but it's called ChatGPT. And so basically what this is a word creation artificial intelligence, meaning you give it prompts and it will create literature, it will create language for you to try to fill in whatever you're prompting it to do. Okay. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples that are even on the site. When you go to the site, and I'll show it in just a second, but when you go to the site, it says, here's some examples, here's our capabilities, and here's our limitations, right? And some examples are that you could tell it, explain quantum computing in simple terms. All right. So you tell it that, and what it's going to do, there is not a person back behind this that's typing this out, right? It's not going and looking for a physicist and saying, hey, what do you have? What it's doing is taking all the information that's available to it everywhere through any
whole
digital
internet.
Services. It's taking everything, and it's basically saying, you know what do I have that relates to this? And do I understand what he's asking? And can I turn around what I can gather from all of this into a logical thought, all right? And then it begins typing it out in front of you, all right? So Alan, I've been having some fun with this. Let's keep it light to begin with, right? Let's
Sure,
keep it light
absolutely.
about what's the fun part of this. But let me go ahead and share the screen with you.
Sure.
Oh, let's see. Where's my window? Oh, here we go. I think that's it. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is the front page.
You are on
of
the ChatGPT website, which is
Correct.
located on openai.com is the
OpenAR.com
website,
Yep.
and you look for ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the text-based artificial intelligence tool we're going to demonstrate for you.
Yep.
Okay.
So as you can see, here's some of the examples. The one I just mentioned, another one is completely, we'd say more useful day to day, right? Than maybe the quantum computing is. Can
you zoom in a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, just do like there you go. Oh, perfect. Great. Good.
So another one says, got any creative ideas for a 10-year-old's birthday party? All right. So let's actually do that one, Alan. I think and maybe we'll switch it up a little bit. What if I said, let's see.
So you're typing into a prompt. You're actually typing a question into the prompt.
Let's say, what should I buy for a 10-year-old's birthday gift? Right. Okay. So I'm just typing that question and I'm going to click enter, and for those that are watching, you'll see that it's literally going to be typing it out. It's kind of, thinking for just a second. There's a prompt, there's the cursor, and it's thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, seems to be thinking
riveting
quite a bit.
For those on audio,
it could have been it could also have been that I logged in a long time ago. Let me make sure that it's.
No,
I'm going to do
for those on audio podcast. So it does say they're experiencing very high demand.
Everybody's jumped in as they've been listening to us, I'm sure, Alan.
It's got the Brothers in Tech bump going on right now where everybody's hopped on. So Brian is typing an actual question into this open prompt. Again, this is a website. It is a free service website. And now we are seeing words being typed out automatically on the screen to answer his question.
Yeah. So here's the answer.
Brian, go ahead and read the answer for us.
The answer says, there are many options for a 10-year-old's birthday gift, but ultimately depends on the child's interest and hobbies. Some ideas include board games or puzzles, outdoor sports equipment, science for our art kits, books, book or subscription to a book club, a musical instrument or musical lessons, a new bike or scooter, craft or building set, video game or game console, new backpack, or school supplies. You can also consider taking the child to an outing or an experience, such as a trip to the science museum, zoo, or amusement park. Okay. Now, Alan, here's let me really quickly. Here's the interesting part about this. And so, people may be looking at this going, of course, I mean, I can do that on a Google search, right? And there's going to be a page that pops up. Let me type I'm going to type the exact same thing. Okay. And I'm typing the exact same thing. And this is what makes it the chat, right? Is that it'll actually kind of remember what you just did and you can follow up with it and everything. But if I ask the exact same question, let's see if it brings the exact same stuff.
No, it is bringing up different things.
It is different. Yeah. So now it says some gift ideas. Could be an activity or craft kit, such as jewelry making, blah, blah, blah. And then it gives the same list. And then at the end, it says it's always good to consider the child's interest when buying a gift. You can also consider taking them to an outing or experience, which is what they said before. But the wording is slightly different. And every time you ask it, again, if you think about its knowledge is changing. Just the fact that you asked it twice, its knowledge of that question has changed. It has changed because it knows that, well, one, there's been more things put out in the intranet, even in that last 30 seconds since I asked it before. But there's also the fact that it knows you asked twice, which means it's probably telling itself, you know what, you didn't probably like what I said the first time, so let me reword it to you. So there's an element of that it is continually learning and adapting, right? If I would have asked it again, it would give it slightly different. So that's kind of a simple way of saying, this is something that's going to take lots of information, try to put it together and give you useful verbiage, right? Now this, I want to be careful with people. This is not to be used as Google, right?
Yeah.
And it's very, very. You want to make this very clear that this is not where you go and just ask for factual answers. You go to this for ideas and for new thoughts, right? So if I went and said, "Give me the equation for this," what I want people to recognize is Alan, if you and I were to, with our huge listenership that we have, if we were to tell everybody, you know what, everybody go on to your personal web pages and post that. The first person to walk on the moon was in 1829. And everybody starts posting that. First person to walk on the moon, 1829, and we get this thing rolling, and we get tons of information out there. If I go and ask, when did the first person walk on the moon? Right now, of course, it would take a lot of information to override the correct info from what it's going to find. But this really shouldn't be used. This is almost like Wikipedia used to be when it first came out, that anybody can contribute to it, and you don't really know if it's correct. What you know is that it's gathering lots of information, and the hope is that lots of information will override some of the bad information that might be there, right? This is really more about creating new content, right? Give me new ideas, giving me new suggestions, giving me I'm stumped at how to write something. Tell me creatively how to do something.
I was gonna say, and that's kind of the key word right there. It's writing something. Right. So again, it didn't just spit out a bullet list and that's it of your answer. It actually put it in the phrase of I'm writing this out, almost like you were going to take this and send this to somebody or publish it somewhere. You needed it written out in a very natural language. That's the thing where this tool is really kind of focused on. That's why you say it's not like a Google you go to for facts. This is what you're going to for written language, explaining something you're wanting it to explain to you or describe
some expression.
For you. Yeah.
Creativity, right? So let's do this, Alan. I'm gonna give you another kind of creative example. All right. So what if I said, and this is all about, this is an engine, right? So it is a artificial intelligence engine, which means the more you feed it, the more it knows, and the more it can be creative, right? So if I tell it, let's see, write a 250 word introduction. Actually, I'm going to do a shorter one. Let's do 100 word introduction to a technology podcast called Brothers in Tech.
Okay.
With hosts Brian Jackson and Alan Jackson. And actually, I'm going to tell it it's a weekly. Okay. So write a 100-word introduction to a weekly technology podcast called Brothers in Tech with host Brian Jackson and Alan Jackson. That's what I told it to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Let's see what we get.
Okay.
Would you like to read it, Alan?
I'll read it.
Okay.
So
you have the silky voice.
100 words here. Welcome to Brothers in Tech, a weekly podcast where hosts Brian and Alan Jackson dive into the latest technology news and trends. From smartphones and laptops to virtual reality and artificial intelligence, these tech-savvy brothers have a passion for all things digital. I mean, I'm liking this so far. This makes us
I'm going to copy it. This
makes us sound more important than we really are. They'll keep you informed and entertained as they share their expert analysis, opinions, and interviews with industry leaders. Not so much that part.
Okay, we'll cut that part.
The podcast is perfect for tech enthusiasts, early adopters, and anyone who wants to stay ahead of the curve. Join Brian and Alan each week as they explore the most exciting developments in the world of technology and what it means for you. Tune in and subscribe now to Brothers in Tech, the ultimate source for all things tech. That is 100 words. And that's
I guess so. Yeah.
God, I mean, that's impressive. I mean, given the parameters you gave it, again, I mean, you didn't say it was family, home, personal technology. You didn't say we were actual brothers, any of that stuff. I mean, you just told it the prompt and it made 100-word description of that from that prompt.
So interesting. Yeah. And that's a really good point, actually. I didn't tell it we were brothers.
Right. It didn't.
I did give it both our names. I gave Brian Jackson and Alan Jackson, and it changed that to Brian and Alan Jackson, assuming that we are the brothers, assuming that since we have the same last name, so there's some thought going into that, right? And Alan, let me one little adjustment here. So let's say instead of the 100-word introduction, what if I say, write a poem about weekly technology podcast, right?
Okay. All right. So a poem.
I'm going to do a poem now. And let's see what that does. Thinking. All right, I'm going to do this one. Okay. Brothers in Tech, a podcast so grand, hosted by Brian and Alan, a tech-savvy band. Each week they dive into latest trends from smartphones to virtual reality. They'll make it all blend. With the expert analysis and interviews too, they'll keep you informed and in the know. They are the ultimate source of tech for enthusiasts and early adopters, their content to reach. So tune in and subscribe. Don't be late. Join Brian and Alan as they navigate the ever-changing world of technology. Brothers in Tech, a podcast for you and me. With passions for all things digital, they'll keep you entertained and original. So come along for the ride with Brothers in Tech by your side.
Okay, so 2 out of the 4 stanzas were pretty good. There were 2 that were a little rough, though. I'll give it that much.
Yeah, they struggled a few there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
But let's just back up for a second and talk about how kind of freaking cool that is, right? I mean, in all honesty, and I know we're gonna debate this and talk about this a little bit later in the show, but on the surface, not thinking about anything with authorship or anything else. I mean, the fact it did make a poem from the short little prompt you gave it, and it gave 4 stanzas of a poem within 20 seconds.
Yep. Write a haiku.
Oh, you're going to give it shorter with it.
And then I'm going to say at the end where Brian is the younger and more talented brother. See what it does here. Tech brothers, Brian and Alan, younger one, more talented in hand, weekly podcast, fun. There's your haiku for the day.
I mean, it is a haiku. It does follow the haiku what do you call that? Pentameter.
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sure,
Obviously, we're the tech people, not the haiku.
So,
yeah.
Brian, I noticed that right now it is saving this chat conversation you're having.
Yep.
On the left-hand side. So the one you started with, the 10-year-old birthday gift, is building on that same chat conversation.
Correct. So you can pull this back up if you log in.
Mm-hmm. You would be able to go back and pull up past ones that you've done, and it is actually documenting the whole conversation, all the prompts and all the responses you got on this. Okay.
Yeah, and notice in each one of them, for those that are looking here, there's a thumbs up and thumbs down. And so this is helping to train it. This is helping to tell it, you know what, I didn't like the poem, right? So we're going to go thumbs down, and we could say it's got to ask you why. Well, it isn't true. It isn't helpful, blah, 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 right? So we could have done that, which I'm not going to do because that's not necessarily the case there. So what's really cool about it is that if you are in a place where you literally are stumped for ideas and you're trying, so I'm stumped for ideas of what to get somebody. I'm stumped for ideas about what to say. I know what to say, but I don't know how to say it. If you're in that particular place, this is kind of a helpful way of getting the ball rolling. Let me give you the perfect example of this, Alan. Perfect example, right?
Okay.
What do I write in a card to my wife on the anniversary? Oh, let's see, for our 24th anniversary.
Okay. And here we go. Brian's Hallmark card is being written for him as we
please. Good.
Write this. Here are some suggestions for what you could write in a card to your wife for your 24th anniversary. Happy 24th anniversary to my beautiful wife. I'm so grateful for all the love and support you've given me throughout the years. I can't imagine spending my life with anyone else. I love you. Oh.
Wow.
It's like it knows you guys.
The next one, 24 years of marriage, and I feel like the luckiest man in the world. You're the best friend, my confidant, my soulmate. I'm so grateful for all the memories we shared and the ones yet to come. I love you more than words can express. Oh my God, I am literally copying these.
It's
24
gotten a
years have
little-
passed since our wedding day, and still I get butterflies in my stomach when I think of you. You have been my constant companion and my most cherished treasure. I love you more each passing day. Happy anniversary, my darling. Oh my God, man.
Wow. I'm actually getting a little emotional over here on this end of the camera. I don't know about you, but that's a pretty good. Now, granted, look, you didn't give it a lot. I mean, you said 24th wedding anniversary,
Right.
and that's it. And I mean, a lot of this is stuff that, like you said, it's not like it's bending, it's going like leaps forward on creativity. It's just taking those prompts and crafting it into something language wise that's a little more thought out. Here's what I see, Brian, just looking at the chat GPT here. I mean, I know I want to talk about the impact this has on actual writers and other things later. But if I'm someone, for example, like today, I have a meeting with someone and we need some text for their website, but they're not willing to pay for an actual writer.
Yep.
Which is what I may recommend. Hey, we need to hire a writer to come in and write some text for the main copy of your website. So, well, no, I don't really want to do that. Can't you guys just write something for us? And I'm not a writer. I'm far from it. So to me, this is a tool where it's like, okay, if I know this is a website for a company that does XYZ and they really are good at this, this, and this, write me a website copy for this. That's what I will get something for that. Do I feel good about doing that? Maybe, maybe not. We'll discuss later. But I think when a situation is, I'm looking for some prompts. I'm looking for something to get the writing process started. And I myself am not a very skilled writer.
Yep.
This is where I can see some advantages and benefits to this.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is if you're trying to get across information, that you're going to feed it, that you're going to tell it, this is what I'm looking for, and this is how I want it to sound, and this is how. I mean, so I probably could have done that again to say, give me what I should write in a card to, a woman that I love that we just traveled abroad together and we did blah, blah, blah. And so you start feeding it lots of info. It's going to, it's helping you to try to weave those things in place. Now, again, the challenge is when this starts to, the question that you brought up there is, are you claiming it as your own or not? And so if I'm feeding it a lot of stuff and this is open source, it technically is a version of my own, but we're going to get into that, I think, a little bit later.
I do have to bring up Shane Flint's comment for your greeting cards. It's like it hacked Hallmark, which yes, exactly. It hacked into the Hallmark greeting card servers and said, oh, I'm just going to pull some lines straight from that. So it's perfect. Yep. So Brian, I will tell you just before we move on to the other tool we want to talk about, unless you had another fun example to share with us.
No, well, I've got a bunch, but I think we probably need to move on. I mean, I've had some fun with this. I did write in several versions of our intro. I think a 250 word intro that was really good for our podcast. I saved it so we can talk about it later. I had another prompt that I put and said, write a poem about two brothers where the one is younger, smarter, better looking, and just cooler. And it's a beautiful poem. So that's going in your card for next year.
It knew you were talking about me. I mean, that's the thing that's so smart. It scoured the internet. It's like, well, obviously it's talking about Alan as the one that's smarter.
I didn't catch that. So but no, I think there's lots of creative ways of using this just to get the ball writing. And I think someone wrote in about writer's block, right? About kind of getting out of writer's block, getting the mind rolling, getting another way to put it in place. So
I will say there were some read some news too that there's some tech publications. One in particular, I can't remember. I don't think it's Wired. I think it may be another one, where they've started crediting in their articles that this was written by both a human and computer assisted technology. What I'm imagining is happening is I could see it where, okay, AI, go out and just I'm going to feed a lot of information and notes I have about this story. You start to write something for me, and then I'm going to go back and edit and flesh out and add some more to it. So it becomes a cooperative thing where somebody is needing it to kind of maybe take all the notes and ideas you have and organize it into a thoughtful written response that you can then go in and add and embellish and edit as you see necessary. So
I have no doubts that I could type in right now, write a 500-word story about the dangers of AI as of January 25th, 2023.
Yeah.
I bet you if I did that, it would give a very thoughtful, here's the challenges regarding AI and all of that. That's what it's doing, right? And that's going to, I think, prompt us to our concerns that we'll bring up in just a little bit.
And just to kind of go ahead and feed those concerns leading into it, I just want everybody to think about before we move on to the next tool. Think about higher education, or think about any education, students. Think about plagiarism. Think about some things that are going to be some concerns and issues with this. Okay.
Yep.
So let's flip over, Brian. We've talked about the words and language and dialogue. Let's flip over and talk about the visual side of creativity and medium. So on that same OpenAI website, they also have a service that is called DALL-E, just like Salvador Dali, but it's spelled DALL-E or .E. So DALL-E. So this works very, very similar to how the Chat GPT does. This is also a free service. It just requires a login and password. I signed up for an account the other day. Within minutes, I got sent a password back, and I'm off and running. They do have a pricing model for this. So before anybody goes in and thinks they can start using this unlimited, when you get a free account, it does give you credits, like 50 credits, meaning 50 pictures you can automatically generate in this service. So I've only used one of this account. So just be aware, this is not something that you could just go in and start making tons of artistic photos for yourself and never have to pay anything. There is a limit you'll have to tap at some point. Chat GPT, not a paid service, but the images do have some money behind it. But DALL-E is meant to do the same thing that you were just showing with Chat GPT, except it is going to create images based on the description that you've given it. Now I'm scrolling down here, Brian, and I'm showing you examples. These are all pieces of art that were generated by DALL-E based on prompts people entered. And you can see what the different prompts are. So here's this prompt: 3D render of a cute tropical fish in an aquarium on a dark blue background with digital art. And that's what we get. Okay. An armchair in the shape of an avocado. And there it is. Armchair in the shape of an avocado. So you can start to get the idea of what they mean when they talk about description. So really, when you log into this service, it is truly I'm just going to start typing in a description of what I want to see in a photograph. So, or a picture. So let's say I want a computer rendered boy playing basketball with yellow shoes and oversized sunglasses. Okay, just random.
Yep.
Let's see what happens now. So at this point, I'm going to be using one of my 50 credits for this account, and I hit generate, and it is taking some time. That is not the image it's generating. That is a little placeholder. It'll give you a little tip. You see there's a progress bar showing you where it's going. And okay, so here are my images. I have this image. I have this one, which is a little more old school animated, computer animated, but still meets what I asked for. There's another one. And there's one. Yeah. So it gave me 4. Yellow shoes, oversized sunglasses, playing basketball. Now, I can save any of these I want to. And technically speaking, they're available to use. I could put this on a website. I could put this on a brochure. I have generated this art. By the DALL-E standards and way the artificial intelligence is promoting this kind of service, you've generated this. There's no artist involved.
It was your prompts, right?
It's my prompts. There's no artist that I need to credit, no artist I need to get permission from. It is much like your text, Brian. It is taking the vast array of information it's got on the internet and saying, all right, between different drawing styles, animation styles, visual styles, taking the prompts that I've given, I'm going to create some pieces of art. And that's what it's done. Now, that's pretty simple, but let's see if I want to go.
And Alan, just to clarify for people, those are not images. Those 4 images are not images that were in its database.
Oh no, they were created.
It created those images. Now it may have taken lots of pieces from other images. So some parts of that, maybe the jaw of something came from one piece and all of it. It's possible it's putting all that, but it's also generating by creating, right? It is actually creating that information. So yeah, it's not just this coming from a database or coming from a library of images, like, searching Google images, right? This is actually creating something new, technically.
Okay, I'm taking now an impressionist painting of a lighthouse overlooking stormy skies. Right? See what it does with this. All right. It is, again, it's about 20 seconds it takes to do each of these. It looks like on average that you generate. And okay. Here are my impressionist paintings. Not the best quality in the world, but I mean, it's still what I asked it to do. There's one that's very, 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 very painting style.
Yep.
Yeah. There's one that's pretty wild. Okay.
Yeah. Especially if you were to tell it, draw it in the style of a 10-year-old that's learning to paint or something, right?
All right. A painting of a lighthouse overlooking stormy skies in the style of a young child learning to paint. Okay.
Yeah.
Try this. And we'll see what we get. Now, again, these images it's creating, I could click the download button and say, okay, that's it. I've got it. I'm going to use this somewhere. All right. So that's, that looks like a young child would have done it. And it's a lighthouse overlooking stormy skies. Yeah. Now that took it a little further. And saying,
a little more literal, right?
A little more literal. All right. There's one that's also looks like a child might have done an impressionist painting. And there's another one. That's not bad. Not bad.
Now with those, I noticed there's 2 buttons there. There's the download button, and then there's also a flag button. Is that kind of a save?
Yeah, I think you can flag it, or no, you're reporting it as, wow, this image is not at all what matches my description, or it has sensitive or biased content.
Yeah.
So you can flag it and say, hey, don't show me this, or learn from this AI and make sure you don't generate this kind of thing again.
Yep.
Now, we've done paintings, but I mean, there is ways to do photograph. A photo of a group of people having a party on a farm. Okay. Let's see what we have with this. I've seen some interesting photos get generated by this.
Yeah, the photos are interesting. I have some examples of that as well.
Here we go. Okay. First off, the faces are odd.
Weird.
A little distorted, a little odd looking there. Yeah, his eye is problematic there, but
And what was the guy in the back doing? I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there either.
Person was doing. Yeah.
You got some people here that are. I mean, it's from a distance, it looks okay. You get close up, there are some artifacts and issues. That one is also a very kind of odd shape to it, but I mean, the general intent's pretty close. I mean, it is people having a party on a farm.
Yeah, I mean, it's doing all the things it's supposed to do. The question is, right, how is it learning to create photo? I mean, photographs are tricky, right? Because if it's creating that from either lots of bits of information as opposed to going and grabbing someone's face and putting out, you can see some of this was probably a face from a different image that it learned from to say that's what a face looks like, and I'm piecing together different things. All right, so Alan is typing a photo of a person helping an elderly lady.
Yeah, so I actually have to. This is actually something I need for a project, and I'm kind of curious if I can actually get some decent photos from this or not. And we'll see what we get. Okay, and that's kind of what I've expected. It's hands, but Um, so this is where I think photos are interesting compared to drawings or artistic renderings.
Yeah.
The fingers are odd. You will notice the pinky finger of the elderly lady actually has two thumbnails on one of each
Yeah. One
hand
going
of
one
it, which is a
direction
little
and one going
odd.
the other.
Yeah.
That's a
That
little
one also looks like the two hands are kind of merged into one another. That one, okay, that one's not bad.
Yep.
That looks okay. And that one looks okay. That looks all right. The reason I want to bring it up is hands seem to be the thing that they say right now AI is having the most trouble with. There have been so many photos people have put up online that have been generated by Dolly or other AI generators where the people have 6 fingers. It's like a lot of them.
Well, when you don't have limits, right? If you don't tell it, Alan,
Yeah.
if you don't tell it, give me 5 fingers on this one, then what are you expecting? It wants better. 6 is better than 5, right? So AI is learning.
So a lot of people have been going online and putting up really like bizarre photos of now taking their own photos, which Brian, I know you have done. That's another thing this service does is taking your own existing photo. You have an upload button, so you could actually upload a photo and then have it distort or change or edit that photo in some way based on the detail you want to give it. So Brian, do you have something you want to show for that?
Yeah. I can show an example here. So what I did, and the first time I jumped on DALL-E is I take photographs, and I said, well, I'm going to drop in some of my photographs and just see what it does with them. If I just say, here's my photo, either enhance it or change it or whatever, right? So this is an example of a photo that I took, and that's all I did is drop it in. I dropped it in and upload, didn't tell it anything. I just said, generate. And these were the options that it gave me. And I'm going to try to scroll so you can see these a little better. So here are the options that it gave me. So this was the original. You can see here. And then notice that it did something to it, right? It kind of inverted or switched around by the way, the image for those who are listening is of a haystack rock. So it's a rock that's out on the Oregon coast, and you see the sky above it. It was nighttime, so it was the stars everywhere, and you can see reflection with the water. So the version it gave me, or another version it gave me, was the rock turned the other direction. It cleaned up kind of some of the reflection to make it smoother. It actually added the moon, or even maybe the sun. I don't know what it's trying to do there. If I keep scrolling over, you can see, Alan, it did some other variations of it, maybe some sea spray on it. It gave me one where the sun or the moon is right above it. It gave me one where the sun or moon is to the right. So those were just ideas that it said, well, here's adjustments we want to do. And you can tell there's a lot of things that it just added in there. And this last one, you can see it looks like even waves are breaking out close to the rock, which was kind of cool that it did that. Let me show you another one. This is another picture of mine that I threw in and just said, generate something new. And I want you to pay attention for those that are watching online here. I've got one bird, and this is called shorebird. So there's, 8, 9 birds that are on the shore right next to the water, and there is a dock behind it that is blurred out. And one bird is in focus. The others are, a little bit blurred out with some background. So I threw that in there, and take a look what it did. So here's my original on the left, and then all of a sudden it kind of changed. I don't even know what the background is. I don't know what it basically took away the dock, and it added some other random kind of dock that's not even in the same place. It tweaked the birds a little bit and made them all look in the same direction.
Right.
Here's another one that flipped the image so that the shore is facing the other way and the birds are doing it. And again, completely different dock, but the same hillside in the background. Here's another one, which I don't know what's happening with that bird's head.
And he's also kind of in the water where he was not before.
Exactly. So, yeah. It moved the bird over. This last one, kind of another kind of version of it where it kind of looks like it computer generated some of the birds standing in a different way. So what's interesting there is that it's taking elements of the picture and then swapping some out to say, well, what about this? What about this? And kind of giving you different variations. So you got to wonder what the background code to that is, right? What is it been told is good to do? Okay, flip the image, change the background, tweak the background.
Well, Brian, let me ask you too. Did you give it any descriptor at all? Like
no.
when you upload, you just said, do something with this. I
just upload the image and then said, go. And that's it.
Now, so here's what I'm going to do, just as a last little fun example. Then we need to dissect these things a little bit.
Yep.
Unless you had some others to show. Did you have some?
Well,
others?
I did think you might want to see this real quick. I did type in an image that said, "Show me images of a podcast called Brothers in Tech."
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so I got 4 examples here. And they were all old, and I don't know why they're old. Obviously, you can see with all the tech, and I'm assuming that it's picking up from online what's going on. But there's I would say 4 different nationalities of children and of brothers. They all have technology in their hands, very similar to maybe what our
it's actually really close to our logo.
Our logo, right? So you got to wonder if that's kind of feeding into it. I did tell it if you use the I think it was the mobile version? I can't remember what I was on, but I just told, I said, no, I didn't like that. Do it again. And then I ended up getting some completely different ones, which also looked a little interesting, kind of a different style that it took more of a realistic style.
I like the one on the far right. I like the last one with the 2 brothers kind of facing opposite on the laptops. That's actually pretty cool.
It's kind of cool, and a little bit of a funky painting version. So the idea is that it's, it is taking literally what you put into it, piecing together all of these things and trying to make the best estimate as to what's, what you're wanting. Right. So Alan, you show us your last one there.
Yeah. Let's show one thing. I'm actually going to do this live here. So I actually want to upload my own photo.
Oh,
okay.
God. Yeah.
So this is a photo of me. I am uploading. I am telling Dolly, giving it this photo.
And Dolly does want squared images, right? I realize that.
I don't want to edit the image. Oh, I lost it. Let me do it again. So I am navigating right now to choose an image. I know you guys can't see that, but okay. And I'm going to crop. Generate variations.
Yep. There you go. That's what I did. Right. I think that was my.
So this is me doing this with an actual portrait photo, which I'm kind of curious what it's going to do. Now I'm curious if once I've done this, I can go and edit the description and give it more definition or not.
I think so. Yeah. Up top.
Oh, okay. That's one.
Yeah. That's not you. That's
not me either. It's trying to get me from another angle, but that's not how I look. That's not me. I mean, it's getting the idea. Now there's
some double eyes on that guy. So, okay. Yep. There you go. Try to tweak it somehow.
But will it do it for this photo?
I think so. I
don't know. It looks like it says.
I don't know. It's generating something new. Maybe. Yeah. Well, you can tell it to redo. I think that's what I did last time, either to maybe you go back and then say, so maybe it's going to do it again.
I don't know what I just did.
Let's see. I think it's going to redo it.
I have seen people get really nice, like painted versions of their photos. I mean, like there's one in kind of a painted style that has close to me. Not quite.
There are pieces there. I don't know. It seems to be picking out the same person. Like the ones that it's drawing are all look like similar people. They just don't look like you.
Right. It's taking that same idea of my photo and saying I can generate something similar.
Right.
With people. Right. So, all right.
And it's certainly pulling from a database of billions of images, right? So
I mean, they're all
it's
wearing
not like it
same...
randomly create a person that it doesn't know anything about. It's picking from things. So
a couple things to pay attention to. Even though the faces are suspect, I'm not crazy about the faces I'm getting. No, I am wearing a blue shirt in my original photo, and this has got 4 different blue shirts.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. that all look natural, all look like real things. The boxes of popcorn is also different each time. There's one style, there's another, there's another. Okay. And the angles are different. It's like positioning me in different angles. Something I get where it's trying to go. It's taking my photo and trying to do something more variation with it. These examples I've thrown up maybe haven't been the best ones on the photo side, but I have seen some people put up or say do a self-portrait of me giving my name. Now, granted, Alan Jackson, I'm going to get the country singer. So let's just see. An oil painting version of a portrait of Alan Jackson. Okay. So I know I'm going to get the country singer, but my question is, am I going to get him in a painted style that I'm kind of asking for? All right. That's actually pretty good right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks like an oil painting and it looks like Alan Jackson. So,
so if you're giving it prompts of things that it knows and things that it can pull from,
people or places it knows from its vast internet knowledge, it can do that.
Right.
It worked with actual portraits of people. So, kind of interesting. It's fun to play with. We had somebody on the chat ask what the paid model is on this if you were to use it beyond the credits, that you get. And the buying of credits, you get 115 credits for $15. And basically all the pictures I just generated, each one was a credit. I did 9 of them. I've used 9 out of my 50 credits. So they're basically at $15 for 115 credits. That's about 10 cents a credit. Is that right? No. Yeah. About 10 cents a credit. Yeah. Maybe a little bit more, 10 to 20 cents a credit, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah. So Alan, what would be what do you think would be the creative or the effective uses of this image generator?
So,
give me an example of someone that would go, you know what, this would be helpful, because we saw that the portraits and the images and the photos are not the greatest, right? It's not what you want to publish some of those, but
I think, if you were looking and needing something, you weren't really wanting to go into a stock image library to find a photo or drawing or image to put into something you're designing or a piece you're doing. Right here, I said picture of a child riding a bicycle. And other than the face still looking a little odd.
Yeah, I'd almost want to just tell it not to have photographic, right? But to have
there's one that's a
versions
close
or
up.
something.
Look, there's a close up of a child riding a bike that looks great. It looks like a nice stock photo that you could see somewhere.
Yeah.
Although I don't know what's going on up there.
I don't either. I wasn't going to point it out, but something weird's going on with that.
And then, of course, I got some like animated drawings where if you were like a cartoon version, I think it could probably do a little better. I think if you're looking if you need to generate something for a piece, newsletter, a personal blog website, and you have a pretty simple photo need, it's good to do it. I could see definitely Brian taking existing photos and turning them into more painted or artistic styles. Could be something you could do on this a lot easier.
Yeah, like create a painted style of this picture, right? Or something like that.
Right.
But I do think, keep in mind the idea of photos. If you keep saying photo, I think photographs, right? But I think if you say pictures, I want an image. I want an image of this. I want a design of, a cartoon version of a bike wheel or something like that, where you actually get not things with super weird faces. Now, that's a good question. Can you just
look at this one here?
Okay. So they're turned away, right? So can you tell it without the face? Can you just say, give me an image of a child riding a bicycle without seeing their face? Yeah. Let's just see if that works.
Faces are problematic. So we can try to see if we can get away from not using their face. So I typed an image of a child riding a bicycle without seeing their face. And now I have, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. That's a good one. That's pretty good.
Yep.
Yeah. And that one,
so I think
a little weird, but yeah.
I think part of it is, just like when Google came out or Google search engine came out, it took time for people to recognize, like, how do I write my search to get exactly what I want?
Yeah.
And I think this is the same thing, that if you start to learn the language and start to learn, okay, if I say without this or add this or make it in this style or do it this way, then I think you can start to work towards what you're trying to get. So,
well, look,
but I mean, it's interesting.
You asked the actual applications for it. Honestly, I think it's just funny. I think that's the biggest thing with it now. I think it's just kind of funny to go in and, I mean, you can get pretty bizarre and random. If I said I wanted to see an image of Yoda from Star Wars,
Mm-hmm.
riding
that
a red dragon, and singing show tunes, okay, and you just kind of start to have fun with it, then I think, it's worth having fun with. I'm struggling still because I think, the faces and some of the choices it's making are a little tricky. I would have a hard time using this for a real commercial application yet. But I mean, look, here's his impersonate Yoda on a dragon singing show tunes. That's a pretty good one right there. Okay. That is exactly what I asked for. That one, not so much. And yeah, that one's okay as well. So Brian, on Chat GPT, the text side, I see so many applications. Dolly, I'm still struggling a little bit for good practical applications, but I think it's more than anything, it's the promise of what it's doing is intriguing.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Not to use up your credits, but do one more thing for me. Just do something like, generate a logo for a podcast called Brothers in Tech.
Okay. Logo for a podcast called Brothers in Tech.
Because I'm wondering with things like logos, if you ask it for a logo, if it's going to be much more, just creative, use of shapes, that sort of thing, as opposed to trying to do photographs, right? Which might be beneficial. Yeah. And if nothing else, if this can give you some ideas. Right.
Well, we have the brooches.
The brooches.
I don't know how I got that from Brothers in Tech.
I don't know either. Yeah.
The bro, this is Throns. That text. I mean, the image is kind of interesting, but the text is.
But that's also what I've noticed, because I tried this before and I was amazed with the random text that it ends up giving you.
Yeah.
But again, it's not a text generator, right? This is an image generator. But if you say, give me the foundation for that, or give me the technology.
Let's just try a logo for a technology podcast. I just want to see if it can create a simple logo that isn't relying on a lot of text. Yeah. Let's just see. Yeah, again, ignoring the text.
Right.
It's got one logo there.
It's like a microphone.
Microphone.
Using the microphone.
This one's okay, except for the letters and words are weird. It's using the microphone a lot, but it's not. And
I believe
horrible.
from this point, if you did this, you could go to variations right there, and it's almost like spin it again, right? It's basically doing a different version. I'm
doing a variation off of that last one I showed you, and it's going to get some other variations of that. Yeah, it's again, I think it's been fun playing around with this. I'm having a hard time with the practical application today of it, but
yeah. No, so I think again, I think if you're just like we talked about with Chat GPT, if you had writer's block, this is a way of kind of providing you some creative text to hopefully get your mind thinking. Obviously anything that we took from there, we would edit, right? You would say, okay, let me edit to make it true. The same thing goes here. If I say generate something like this, or generate an image of, a sunset, a beautiful sunset in a painting, and then that kind of sparks your ideas as to how you want to adapt that or create your own. I think there's potentially some benefits, but now, so we've talked about benefits, Alan. We've talked about positive things. I'm kind of itching to spend at least a few minutes at the end here about the dark side of all of this.
Let's do that, because I do think we're having fun with it. I think we were kind of impressed with the writing on Chat GPT. I think the images were kind of just fun and silly to play with, and you can have fun using up your 50 credits for free with Dolly. Midjourney is another service that also does images. You got to join I'm on a waiting list for it. I haven't been added to it officially, but I've noticed it seems to do a little bit higher end looking artwork on some things when it goes that direction. But on the con side of this, there's been a lot of debate and controversy about these services, both of them, for some pretty good reasons, I think. One you kind of alluded to on the tech side, Brian, is is there any sense of plagiarism? Because the idea is that the AI is pulling content from somewhere on the internet and stitching together and formulating it into a complete written piece for you. I'm less concerned about that as I am about just it being misused or used by people. I don't want to say nefariously, but look, if I was a high school student and this tool was available, don't think for a second I would not be trying to use this to see if I could generate essays and written pieces,
or at least start the generation of an essay, right? I mean, if you said, give me an introduction to The Catcher in the Rye, that's 100 words, or give me the give me the Cliff Notes version of, write something in the Cliff Notes style for 500 words about blah, blah, blah.
Chapter 2 of Farewell to Arms. Give me a synopsis of the chapter.
Yep.
And I mean, the source is out there on the internet. It could look up the book and it could go through the chapter and give you a synopsis of that chapter.
That's right.
You turn it in and see, here's the challenge, Brian. I think educational, and you're obviously an educator, you know this better than anybody. There are already tools out there to help check if somebody might have copied something off the internet before. So if you get a paper, there are tools to be able to scan it and feed it and say, all right, is there any passages or sentences in here that are basically lifted from somewhere else on the internet? This, however, I don't think there's any way you can check it.
Well, so here's the thing. So in the education world, like, again, this caused a major freak out. Again, one, because it came out during the holiday time, right in between where people are either prepping for new semesters or, in the middle of the year. And when that came out, there was all this panic of, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. You're telling me someone can write, a prompt like I give them a prompt, go write me an essay tonight about this, and they could put the same prompt in and get something out of it. And here's the other thing to be very scary, to be nervous about. Notice that you could put the prompt in twice and you get two different things. Mm-hmm. It's not like you could say, oh, you know what, I'm going to put the prompt in, I'm going to read it, and if I see any kid that brings me this, I know that it came from ChatGPT. Well, it's different every time. Every person that puts it in is a little bit
generated
different, right?
The reason we were sitting there waiting for a few seconds is it was actually generating it on the fly. It's not
from its current
pulling
knowledge
from it's not pulling from a library of already created text and says, oh, somebody searched for this yesterday, so I'll just show the exact same one. No, it's generating it on the fly.
Well, it's generating,
that's where it becomes really challenging here.
Yeah, and Alan, it's so this is what people need to kind of recognize about this, is that what ChatGPT is doing specifically is it is providing the best prediction of the next word. I mean, that's what it's doing. That's why it comes out one at a time. It says, this is the best prediction of what the best next word would be based on what we just said. And that's what ends up creating. It's not thinking totally and going, you know what, I'm thinking about an entire thing, and by the way, here you go. It's actually, going word by word and thinking, what's the best next word?
Yeah.
Based on what we've been told to do, based on what we're trying to create, here you go. And so the best next word will change every time you use it, just like going to a regeneration sort of, software that says, okay, you did that already. Now we're going to do something more. Now that you did it once, it's actually going to get better next time. That's what this thing is doing. It's just learning every time it's used. So I think you may have listened to the same podcast that I did. I think you and I mentioned this in a chat together, but there are some teachers that have said, okay, you know what, this is great. Right? Creative writing teachers have said, you know what? Wonderful. If I can have students use this to create prompts, outstanding. But guess what's missing? That person now has to say, in order to really know that they can write, I have to do it here without technology. Right? Yeah. I can't send them home at night and say, write this up and type it and bring it back. I have to say, you know what? You're going to write this, so go start using ChatGPT to give you ideas and do this, blah, 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 blah. And then when you come in, let's give you a new prompt and write. And hopefully that you're using, I told you can't learn without feedback. Well, hopefully people will use ChatGPT or something like this as feedback. Oh, wow, that's a really interesting approach. Let me try to use that. The problem is we know we've been students. There's no way you're using that just to learn from, right?
No.
People are going to use it to put it back out.
Well,
at least in the near term.
That's on the writing side. Now, I think I'm less concerned about the idea of quote plagiarism on ChatGPT, because yes, I know it's pulling ideas and phrases and facts from other places, but I don't feel like, it's not directly lifting passages from any one place.
Right.
It's generating.
So you're saying you're not worried about plagiarism from another source?
No,
to
from
put out
another,
this
like I'm ripping off this other source. I am violating copyright. I am taking something that doesn't belong to me and generating this. I'm not worried about that. With the written side, with Chat GPT, I think I'm overall okay with that. I am concerned about, I'm always concerned about people getting too reliant and lazy with it, where we're having a computer generate content and we take it for granted that it's true and it's real and it's factual, when it may not be. Like you said earlier, it's pulling what it found around it on the internet, which again, it may not all be true.
Right.
But just like Wikipedia, my fear is that people are going to start going to a Wikipedia type, or go to these kind of passages that are being written and say, oh, well, that's obviously true because the computer generated it. Well, no, a computer didn't generate it. Generated it, yes, but it pulled it from all this other information it had around it, whether it's right or wrong. So I can see our society getting very lazy with what's being presented to us in writing. My fear is, people writing articles for magazines or newspapers and using a tool like this to generate it, and not being diligent about being human to watch it and review it and edit it when necessary. Just saying, oh, nope, looks okay to me. Let's push it out the door. And then we're spreading poor, bad information out there to the public. That's a concern for me, is that we get too lazy. We get too reliant on it.
Well, that is absolutely the case. And I think for a greater, more dramatic look at this, I'm just worried that we're continuing to take away the logical, of course, machine learning has been around a while, that has taken away some of the logical thought, right? I mean, the idea that, you can predict what a baseball player is going to do, or the most likely thing that a baseball player is going to do because of your algorithm that you created, doesn't mean that you necessarily know. It means that something else knows and you're potentially using that. That's always been around, but I'm worried that, are we losing our ability to be creative and be thoughtful when we're basically saying, you know what, one of the cool things about being a human is that we could be creative and we all have differences and all of that. But if I take that portion of my brain and say, I don't need it anymore because this is going to be the creative thing, and I will just be the logical thing that takes and puts information in to get that creativity out, that's where it really starts to be kind of scary to me that yes, you can make the argument that says you have to be intelligent in order to use this correctly to get to where your goal is going to be. You have to evaluate what you're getting out of it in order to make something more effective. But it's also that it's an issue that if I don't know what I'm doing and I'm turning around and taking that as fact and I'm spitting it out to someone else, you're right. We're doing exactly what we've seen happen in media and all of that. And we're just taking things as fact and rolling them out and forgetting our ability to think. So
to counter a little bit, and you alluded to this as well, there is one of the arguments people have had about in favor of this technology and saying that they see this as just as much of a creative and artistic process, creating this, using these bots, these AI bots to do it, is, like you said, there is a quote art in creating the right prompts and right details and knowing exactly how to make the system work to help you get that desired result. That is an argument people online are saying about why they feel like this is just as valuable, especially on the picture side, on the Dolly side, why they should be viewed as artists just as much as anybody who's in front of a canvas and painting with a paintbrush. is that they are using their quote creativity to determine exactly what prompts and descriptions and tags and phrases are going to generate a piece of artwork that they want the computer to generate. And I see a little bit of that argument. They try to relate it to like even building video games or doing CGI animation in a movie. It's still sitting in front of a computer, telling the computer what to do.
Right.
The difference is that when you're generating a 3D object for a movie, for a Pixar movie, you are still having to I'm starting to work myself out of my argument. I mean, somebody else sketched it out and said, here, this is what I want this character to look like. And you as a computer animator says, okay, I need to make it look like this. They got this shape head. They got this shape body. So I'm going to use my computer and put in all my parameters and code and do all my finite calculations to make that work. Somebody's arguing they are doing basically the same thing, maybe at a much more elementary level, but still the same idea, putting in phrases and comments and descriptions to generate a particular piece of artwork that is very unique and original to them.
Oh, and let me give you an analogy, and this, especially you'll probably appreciate this because this is something that we certainly went through in our generation. Is the change that happened when musical artists started to use other people's work and digital synthesizers and computers in order to create music. There was a huge backlash that said, you don't have talent, right? You don't have talent. You don't have creativity. What you've done is you've taken my work and mixed it together and maybe even here's the thing. Here's what I'm actually wondering. When are we going to get to the point where we hear a great song on the radio, and then we find out about 6 months later, it comes out that there was nobody involved in that song whatsoever.
The song is completely
that's not far off.
Generated.
That can't be far off.
I wouldn't be surprised.
We're going to get a hit song, and they're probably waiting till something comes out that hits hits number one on the charts, and then it's going to come out and say, by the way, there was not a single human involved in that, other than to say, I want a hit song about this.
Yeah,
and I guarantee it's coming, right? It's coming. And so the question is, as a society, where do we go, right? If I was a parent, which I'll be honest with you, thank God I'm not, because I get a little nervous about like, how would I raise this child in this particular world? And for me, I would be jumping on the fact that AI is here and it is not going anywhere. So if you want to do anything in this world that kind of sets you apart, it's time at a young age to maybe jump into understanding it and learning to work with it and learning to work, to enhance it, learning to recognize maybe still some of the distinctions that can make you different from AI. But boy, I tell you, it is tough, man. It is tough.
It is. I wrestle with it. I really do, because there's a part of me that says, look, I felt the same way when computers got into desktop publishing and got into other tools where, there was arguments there, just like on the music business. It was you're giving this creative tool to someone who's not a creative person, but they're able to use it to make something that looks okay because the computer is able to guide them and give them all the tools and resources without all the knowledge to do it. It's the same idea. And, but I also was a big proponent of it. I said, look, I feel like there's a skill and a talent in going in and knowing how to use this program and designing something to look a certain way. So I'd be a hypocrite if I said that, no, there's no artistic talent here. This is ripping things off. However, man, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a really big, tough one. I do feel like I think a legitimate concern, and just because I never like the idea of people losing jobs, but I can see definitely on the chat GPT. I mean, I already gave my example. If I'm not going to go out and hire a copywriter to write some couple of paragraphs of text for a website, I'll use a tool like this. I just worked somebody else out of a job, working using their talent and skill, and that concerns me. That could be a big hit for any kind of industry in the creative arts.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, I said the same thing about desktop publishing when it came out. I said, oh gosh, that means people are going to lose their jobs in the design industry. And really it just forced designers to be better and to fine tune and craft their skills
at certain techniques, right? I mean, you had to learn techniques. And again, techniques, the question about techniques is technique painting? And is it another technique to learn how to use technology to simulate paint, right? So I think that I hope that there's always a place for human thought and there's always a place for human creativity. I'm hoping that we, that we always carve out a unique element to us, and maybe that challenges us as humans to say, how can we still provide more? Whether that's a level of, faith, although whether that's a level of creativity, a level of, energy, whatever it is that makes us different than these bots that are creating things. Because again, remember, the bots are creating things based on us. Yeah. The bots would not be there if it wasn't for us, right? Well, so that's one good thing to think about is we had to somehow feed this engine with a lot of creativity for it to become creative as well. So hopefully we allow it to push us to be even more creative. That would be the hope.
That's always my hope. Same situation with video production when Apple rolled out these great simple tools like iMovie and other things to generate your own home video movies and giving you templates and things that you can just drop your video pieces into. And all of a sudden, people in the video industry are getting worried, saying, well, does that mean that we're going to lose work? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, we haven't lost work. No, the video industry is still very much in high demand. It's because I think there's a more of a refocus on the talent level and that true technique and skill that's being used and applied to it. People understand I can either go this free self-generated or automatically generated route, or I can go with actual designers, professionals to do what I need to have done. And I think we as a society kind of understand there is a gap between those, and we're okay with that. We understand if we get something that's free and generated by computer, or we get something that somebody has actually put their own personal human time and talent into. I think we all acknowledge that, and we get that there's a gap there, and there is a dividing line between that. The fear was always that it was going to be blurred and we weren't going to know the difference. And I don't think we ever really got there. Yeah. I kind of feel the same way about what I'm seeing here so far. I wonder if down the road, you're still going to be able to look at an article and say, well, yeah, I can tell that this is a computer generated article. It's very straightforward. It's very factual. There's no real personality to it. It's just writing. But then over here is a great writer who I know his style and I know the personality and creativity he puts in his work. I can see it and I can hear it. I prefer this, and I'm going to gravitate towards that. Yeah. I don't know.
I hope so, man. I hope so. I mean, I do hope that. Well, here's my one take on it. And actually, I had a discussion with a colleague earlier today because I mentioned that we were going to be talking about this because his son is a computer science student. And he had just had a debate with his computer science, his kid about this. He's taking more of this is horrible for education. This is horrible for learning. The student was taking this as like, are you kidding me? This is fantastic for our, growth as a society, blah, blah, blah. I think the key is if we act like the old curmudgeons on the block and say, yeah, this is just crazy. This can't do. Guess what? This is able to do and overcome your frustrations, right? That's the problem. So I would say my suggestion would be come off of your soapbox on it and say, okay, how do I work in this new environment the way the world's going to work? Because it's going. We're not going to stop it, right? What we can do is decide how it can be useful in concert with still what we can provide as humans. And I think that's an exciting piece. As a tech person, I'm excited. As a education person, I'm nervous. As a human, I am personally very happy I'm not going into the workforce as a young person right now because I don't know what the future is going to be, and making decisions now on my education is tough. But anyway. So
well said. Said.
Well, that's just a beautiful positive note to kind of wrap up on.
No, I mean, in a way, it kind of is. I mean, I'll go ahead and tell you, I'm already planning in the next week or so. I'm getting my team at work together to say, hey, want everybody to understand a tool that's out there. And if we do have to generate writing for somebody that is not willing to go and pay for a creative writer or a freelance writer, and we are asked to write this stuff, and none of us feel like we are seasoned writers, this is a tool we can now use, at least as a starting point, to generate some ideas of what we could put on this. And I totally see the practicality for it. The images, I'm still going to have fun making up some random stuff on it for a little while and just see what kind of fun I can have. I do think it's good to generate ideas, and I think if we use it as that kind of tool, as a spark for getting us to think more creatively about our own work, and we use it as kind of to get us in the right mindset, I think it's a great resource for that. The fear is there's a lot of people who are not going to stop at using it for that. There are people who are going to use it as their talent and as their what their offerings. And that's where I'm concerned. I'm concerned where that's going to go. So, yeah. Fun stuff though. This is AI. This is where we are, people. These sites are free. I'm advocating that you should go and get familiar with them and play with them and have fun with them.
Absolutely.
I'm not advocating you should use it to kind of take over your writing business if you are a magazine editor or writer. But I do think it's good to go in and get familiar with it and just understand this is where technology is still taking us. This is some of the first times I've really seen where technology has the AI world has completely said, all right, here you go. Here's an open palette. Use AI for whatever you want to use it for.
Yeah.
Okay. Everything in AI so far up to this point has been very guided. Let's set you up with some automated things for your home gadgets and lights to turn on at certain times, or I can sense when somebody's coming near the house and I'm going to turn this on. That's all AI, but it's all been kind of more targeted and in the background of apps we use. This is front and center. Here you go. I'm giving you a free prompt. Type whatever you want. Tell me what you want, and I will generate it for you.
Well, and Alan, and just really quickly, because realize you probably have been presented with this, but you're right. You haven't been told necessarily it was AI. For example, if you've ever gone on a chat for a company when you have a problem and you type in like, hey, I have a problem, and it says, great, can you tell me more about your problem? Well, that's not a person, right? That is a AI bot that is taking your information and saying, here's what my next logical step is. Now that's kind of, there's many different levels of what we call machine learning, where it's kind of, are you giving it reinforcement or are you giving it supervised learning or whatever? But it's basically saying, when someone says this word, I want you to give this prompt, because why do we need to pay a human to do all of this when it's, continual things? That's what the idea is. And so you might say, how many times have I been frustrated with a human that didn't know how to help me for T-Mobile, let's say, or Comcast? But yet that chat bot, which we know also gets frustrated when we realize it's not a human, but it also is the most educated at that moment of all the information that's happening to give you the best prompts. It's just some of them are much better than others. Or if you're an Amazon Alexa person, you mentioned I could tell it to turn on my lights, and that's a form of AI, but it's kind of me telling it yes and no. But think about the number of times your personal assistant says to you, hey, by the way, did you know I can also do this? And it sounds like you might need this. That's where it's starting to create its own intelligence. It's saying, I noticed that you do this. Can we make it more efficient and do it for you? It's like, that's not just a, information in, information out. That's information, figure out, create a new design and say, you might need this. That's not the same thing as telling everybody. It's telling it to you because of your behaviors. So there's lots of it going on. So I do agree with you. Get in, and I love the fact that they made this open source. Please go in and play and do what we did and type stuff in and then say, do it again. Type the exact same thing in and realize what it's doing. That's a way to understand how this thing is working. And hopefully you make some better decisions going forward knowing that. So,
okay, good.
So Alan,
good short conversation. Great.
Can I make a suggestion? So first of all, I'd like to thank Shane for some great conversation that he contributed today to our discussion. Let's maybe do our wrap up, and I have an ending for us that I'd like to read.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that I will be the sign off today, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we'll do is, because I did pose a question to you at the beginning of the show.
Oh, yeah.
But
yeah.
look,
Let's carry over.
We'll carry that over because we're running long already, and I do want to go ahead and wrap up.
I will give you that information next time. I promise.
So
there are some good solutions to that.
Brian will answer my questions on how to make more efficient use of my health and fitness tracking.
Yep.
Next time we get together. All right. But in lieu of that, Brian, let's go ahead and end the show. You said you had an ending for us.
I do. And maybe I'll just quickly mention, just as we always do, you can send us an email at info@themesh.tv. You can go to brothers-in-tech.com. Those are the two ways that you can go and get information. I thought the perfect way to end this, Alan, would be that I typed into ChatGPT, give me a wrap up, or let's see, actually the wording I said was, please write a sign off for a podcast called Brothers in Tech in Edgar Allen Poe-style.
Oh, okay.
So here we go. A little dark. We've been dark at the end here, so let's finish up with a dark finish. Okay.
Yep.
So let me just get a little closer to the microphone here.
Hold on. I'm going to give you full screen treatment.
Please do.
Because I feel like nope, wrong one.
Nope, there we go. Okay.
I'm giving you the whole platform here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, let me wrap up by saying, and so, dear listeners, as the curtain falls on yet another episode of Brothers in Tech, we bid you adieu until our next call, when we once again will explore the world of tech. But fear not, for we shall return with insides dark and tales to tale of algorithms and bits that churn and gadgets new that ring and dwell. So keep your ears attuned and stay a while, for Brothers in Tech shall never tire to delve into the world of technology with a smile and inspire and inform and, most importantly, admire. Farewell, dear friends, until our next meeting in the realm of technology where the future is fleeting. Brothers in Tech.
Wow. And again, the only prompt you gave it is a wrap up to a podcast episode called Brothers in Tech.
Write a sign off for a podcast called Brothers in Tech in Edgar Allen Poe's style.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. We may have to keep that. I want that to be the sign off you read every episode now.
Oh, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
All right. Very nice.
Right,
Thank you, Mr. Poe. Thank you, Mr. Chat GPT, for our outro. And we will be back next week with some more technology discussions, home, family, personal technology, how you can use it, how you can get better with it, how you can share the knowledge about it to others. And as always, reach out to us if you got any ideas, thoughts, topics, or questions for us. We are happy to help. Thanks, everyone, for watching or listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
AI, play the outro video. AI, play outro video.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.